In this video, we visit Rievaulx Abbey in North Yorkshire. Its name originated as Rye, the river, and then Norman French Val or Vallée, meaning valley. Its old local pronunciation was simply rivers, and slowly changed to Rievaulx when education of the community brought a general familiarity with the French language. The abbey and farmland were only a short distance from Helmsley, which is another historic location with a castle. If you wanted to make a day of it, you could combine the two. There was a lot of wildlife on the lane down to a car park, so we found it's best to drive really slowly, not just because the road is steep and narrow. Aelred of Rievaulx, the English Cistercian monk, was abbot of Rievaulx from the year 1147 until his death in 1167, 20 years later. He is regarded by Anglicans and Catholics as a saint and is buried at the abbey. The abbey itself was closed as part of a dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII, and that was in 1538. The grounds were then bought by the Earl of Rutland. He was keen to continue the iron smelting industry which had been conducted by the monks. This continued until its disruption during the Civil War, with the production ceasing completely in the year 1647. The abbey then entered its Romantic period, when its picturesque ruins became a beacon for poets, painters and scholars. It was one of the first major ruins to be conserved by the Office of Works, which was the ancestor of today's English heritage. This was in 1917. The monks that lived and worked at the abbey were of the Cistercian order, which was founded by St Bernard of Clairvaux at Citeaux near Dijon, France in 1098. It was to become one of the most remarkable European monastic reform movements of the 12th century, placing an emphasis on a return to austere life and literal observance of the rules set out for monastic life by St Benedict as far back as the 6th century. The Cistercians first appeared in England in the year 1128. Rievaulx was established in March 1132 on land given by Walter Esbeck, who was the lord of nearby Helmsley. The arrival of the strict, reform-minded Rievaulx community sent shockwaves through the older Benedictine houses of the north. The first buildings at Rievaulx were temporary wooden structures. Then, in the late 1130s, Abbot William began the construction of stone buildings around the present cloister. The northern part of his west range, which housed the abbey's lay brothers, still survives today, as does a fragment of a south range. Rievaulx's most famous abbot, Aelred, had been a steward in David I of Scotland's household. He came to Rievaulx as a postulant in 1134, rising quickly to be elected as abbot. He enjoyed a reputation as a brilliant writer and England's most revered biblical scholar, Latin stylist, and pastoral master. By the time of his death in 1167, the community had doubled in size, having 140 monks and about 500 lay brothers. This increase in numbers required much larger buildings. Many of the standing buildings today date from Aelred's rule. A monumental church was begun in the late 1140s, one of the earliest great mid-12th century Cistercian churches in the whole of Europe. The abbey ruins are vast and interesting. There's also a museum on site, but we didn't have time to go inside. As you can see from my video, there are countless rooms, courtyards and buildings to explore. There's even a stream that runs next to the infirmary. The signboards were really helpful, and we decided not to get the audio tour, but we heard a lot of people saying that they were really impressed with it. Compared to Whitby Abbey, there's not much information about ghosts or paranormal activity. I also deliberately didn't research any of this before visiting. The ruins of Rievaulx Abbey are around twice the size of Whitby, and to be honest, I think they're more impressive. During our time there, 2 artists set up easels near the refectory building and the cloister. It was a very peaceful place to wander around. The only disappointing thing was that the gift shop was mainly generic English heritage products, and there was nothing that really stood out for Rievaulx Abbey, apart from the guidebook, which cost around £5. In conclusion, I would highly recommend this for a day out. I think that children will be entertained by its size and the signboards, and we definitely want to visit again next time we're in Yorkshire.